Do this, by the way, in the winter, if you guys remember.
Oh, what the? What the? Yo, who the was that? I don't know, but he's bro.
Fuck, did he even put that too, or what? Or is that natural?
What?
Look, it looks like another.
No, there used to be a fort here. Remember?
Yeah, it looks like a fort. Yeah, that's the thing. He literally just disappeared quick.
So for all we know, he could be just hiding in plain view right now, and we can't even see him.
Dude, I wonder if, like, while we were, like, checking this place out, he was watching us the whole time. I wonder if he was in any of my footage without us even...
million here, we need 5 million here. And I say, well, do you vet it? He goes, no, we're in emergency mode. So we cut the checks immediately to him. Immediately. And he says, but this is where it gets crazy, JJ. He said, when I cut the checks to the subcontractors, I'm cutting the check to the same payee. I'm sending the same funds to Jewish Family Services, the same account. So you have Jewish Family Services getting $600 million, but you have 50 to 100 subcontractors that I'm paying, but I'm paying to the same bank account as Jewish Family Services. It's all a lie. It's just all a lie. And I said, okay, well, you cut $600 million check. Are you now tracking that to check? And he goes, listen, you have to understand, JJ, nobody's following the money. No one cares. He says, you have to understand the federal government created a chaotic situation on the border. You have millions of people coming to the border. The Border Patrol, DHS, CBP, FEMA, no one has the resources, manpower to move millions of people from the border into America. That's where the NGOs come in. The NGOs are the movement of people and goods into America. That is the evil partnership between the government and the NGOs.
Did he give you a sense, because we have a segment coming up here tonight, we're going to talk about the United Nations and their collaboration on all of this and bringing in military-aged men. Did he give you a sense of why most of these people that you've been seeing, of course, on camera, are military-aged men between the ages of 25, 35 years old? You know, I think people out there think this idea of this like replacement theory that just sounds like a conspiracy theory, or the militarization of the United States, a sort of a United Nations army inside the United States and Europe to carry out plans for lockdowns, whatever it is. You know, did he give you a sense of why they all seem to be the same 25 to 35 year olds and they're all men?
He did, as well as many other investigative journalists that I have contacts with and my sources. They all believe that this is a military style invasion. Let me just tell you how this looks to us. When you attack a nation, you attack from multiple points of entry. You don't attack, this is not the Middle Ages where I'm attacking the moat and the drawbridge. I'm attacking multiple areas. So once you do that, you attack multiple areas, you make the inroads into America. Now, the United States government, who I believe is the enemy of our people, has already created the pathways, the highways, the routes for the invasion to go into middle America. So you don't invade a nation and just stay on our borders. You advance, you keep advancing. So when people are talking about the military-age adult males that are pouring into our country, understand that they're anywhere from 50 to 70% of the total illegal population coming into America. We've been sold this lie that's family units and babies and kids. Yes, there are that. But the single adult military-age men are in the millions, tens of millions in America. You're looking at, you mentioned this perfectly. It's happening in Europe. Nothing happens in the world by happenstance. There's no willy-nilly, well, this is just how it's happened. It just happens that there's tens of millions of illegal military-age adult men pouring into from the southern hemisphere.
And they needed to have a design for the Great Seal to represent our nation. And Jefferson went outside in the night, and up came a person, an individual who was wearing a cloak, whom he couldn't totally see, and he had in his hands the Great Seal of the United States. And he basically said, or this being said, you know, you're struggling over the symbol for our nation? Here it is.
The account reads that Jefferson told a strange story. A man approached him wearing a black cloak that practically covered him, face and all, and told him that he, the strange visitor, knew they were trying to devise a seal, and that he had a design which was appropriate and meaningful.
Jefferson, of course, looked at it, according to this story, and said, "This is it. This is it." He knew it was it, and it was right. So he supposedly came running back. Who designed the Great Seal of the United States?
Oddly enough, the Adams Memorial in Washington, D.C. is adorned with this mysterious cloaked figure. Perhaps it's just a coincidence. The first historical account of the Great Seal's design was written by a 19th century American Army officer named Charles A.L. Totten. Masonic author David Oveson writes that Totten equated the birth of the United States with the beginnings of what he called the New Atlantis, a title given to a work by Sir Francis Bacon, one of the mysterious financial backers of the Virginia colony. The Great Seal and the dollar bill represent the most extraordinary example in history of the public evolution of a magical design. Harvard professor Charles Eliot Norton referred to the Great Seal as a dull emblem of the Masonic fraternity. This idea was furthered by occult philosopher Manly P. Hall in the early part of the 20th century. Hall not only believed that the Great Seal was Masonic, but that it was created through the collective consciousness of the occult societies and represented the secret destiny that they had in mind for America, and placed on the back of the dollar bill by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1935. This might all be seen as just a coincidence, if not for the fact that FDR seemed to be familiar with Hall's teachings on the occult. Legacy is carried on at the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles, California, a society that Hall founded in 1934, just 1 year before the Great Seal found its way onto the back of the dollar bill. In what is called the Wisdom Library at PRS. According to their website, the library is made up of writings that deal with divination, tarot cards, Kabbalah, alchemy, astrology, metaphysics, Buddhism, theosophy, and secret societies.
And wisdom literature is about relationships, not only to each other, but to nature, to the universe. That's what this library is. This library is a library about the wisdom that is in nature and in relationships, and how it is that you can tap into that wisdom in any culture. It all overlaps. And Mr. Hall felt like that was really the future of the human race.
It's this little tiny pea-shaped object deep, deep, deep inside the brain. A lot of people represent it up here as the third eye, but in true reality, it's not in the front. It's way deep in the center of the brain. It's been known since deep, deep antiquity, super ancient times, so that this thing was an eye. In other words, it has photoreceptors. They knew that this thing had the capability of receiving photons and light waves and then channeling it throughout the body. Also, the third eye, it has these hairs on it, which are like receiving antennas, because it's your spiritual antenna. It's your connection to the higher dimensions that exist. We know that this universe has 11 dimensions based on string theory. They just discovered that the human mind can exist and perceive up to 11 dimensions, the same amount as the universe. Our mind is a fractal of the whole, and this is peer-reviewed quantum physics. Also made of crystals. There's crystal in there, and crystals have an amazing power. When you put pressure on a crystal, it releases energy. When you put the pressure of the spinal fluid on the pineal gland, it sparks. When it sparks, it releases DMT. You can create the same experience as taking ayahuasca. You can have your own DMT. You don't have to take it from a plant and have somebody out in the jungle somewhere. You don't even know if they're going to take advantage of you, because it's happened to a lot of people. You can do it in the privacy of your own home with a guided meditation, and you can trigger the same exact response. It allows you to reach higher levels of dimension and consciousness. When you tap into understanding how the third eye works, you're closer to real-time information, because scientists discovered that there's a 7 to 8 second delay in between the time that something happens and the time that we realize it happens. Everything that we see going on around us is 7 to 8 seconds delayed, unless you're moving from the third eye, the pineal gland. When you tap into that, your intuition skyrockets, and intuition turns you into a surfer versus a person that's standing in the ocean waiting for the wave to crash over them.
Are we looking at pyramids in Antarctica over the ice wall from Operation High Jump in 1946? This footage is circulating around, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. But first, if you really don't think there's an ice wall, check this out. This is genuine footage from the Navy from 1957. You tell me what you see when you look at this. This goes on and on and on. And I want to show you something about it that's very peculiar. Now, I want you to pay particular attention to how this is a concave ice wall. If it was convex, like this at the bottom of a globe, it would be convex because it would be a continent at the bottom. If we were inside of it and it surrounded us, it would be concave. Like we see anytime someone shows us footage from the Antarctic shore that holds in all the oceans. Now let's check out these pyramids. It looks pretty legit to me, but unless I'm there, unless I can see with my own eyes, kind of like with the ice wall, I don't know. It's just speculating. But I think the speculation, especially with the ice wall, because water needs a container, makes a lot of sense. Have a good day. Oh, entertainment purposes. Of course, this is just all CGI and there's no ice wall. No ice wall.
You guys hear about those fires in Chile? It happened Vina del Mar, eerily similar to what happened in Maui. So you know how they were talking about Lahaina becoming the first city in Hawaii to be a smart city? Vina del Mar was the headquarters of smart city business for Chile.
No way.
These fires, same scenario. High winds, no warning. A lot of people died. And I saw a video today. This dude who was like going through the wreckage of like a little outskirt of Vina del Mar. And there was a blue house completely unburned.
No way.
And I don't know if you've heard about this whole thing with the conspiracy of the direct energy weapon. But lasers cannot burn the color blue. So in Hawaii, everything was just like burnt to a crisp, like just blue umbrellas, just completely
Unfazed.
I have family who was walking through the area and they literally said their warehouse is green and blue. All the green ones are scorched. All the blue ones are still standing and fine.
But a weird connection with the fires in Maui. And that day there was a satellite right above Maui. Guess who owned that satellite? CERN.
Really?
And a couple years ago, CERN discovered what they called the fifth force of nature called cosmic energy.
One of the other lands in our realm that is heavily restrictive on our travel and exploration. They tell us there's nothing in the North Pole, just ice sheets. But looking back at hundreds of old world maps depicting something much different than we've been told, all showing the same 4 islands with a mysterious black rock mountain in the middle, said to be a magnetic mountain. And not only are they depicting the same land, but they say they were inhabited. Just look at some of the descriptions, even a Tartarian village. The famous cartographer Mercator in 1577 wrote a letter to a friend in England describing the north as this: in the midst of the 4 countries is a whirlpool, into which there empties these 4 indrawing seas, which divide the north, and the water rushes round and descends into the earth, just as if one were pouring it through a filter funnel. It is 4 degrees wide on every side of the pole, that is to say 8 degrees altogether, except that right under the pole there lies a bare rock in the midst of the sea. And it was far from just one cartographer. Chinese, Japanese, the world over were showing us the same. These cartographers at the time, jobs and reputations depended on their accuracy. They weren't just going to repeat something unverified for centuries. There has been many detailed lands in this realm that have been erased, not just the North Pole, but places like Friesland. But what do you think, signs of a reset, or cartographers copying each other? Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Greenbrier Hotel. Have you heard of that? No. The Greenbrier Hotel is a hotel that is 5 hours away from Washington, D.C. It was built like in the early 1900s, and they're going to do some renovations to it. And a lot of presidents, royal members, like all these elites of the world, they would go and stay at this hotel. So the U.S. government commissioned basically build a 120,000 square foot bunker underneath this hotel. And literally no one knew about it.
Oh my gosh, typical.
The hotel staff didn't even know about it.
Crazy.
For over 30 years.
Wow.
How did it get discovered?
This is where it gets crazy, because the Washington Post basically was granted permission to talk about this bunker that was underneath this hotel. And that article came out in 1992, and then the government stopped using this bunker in 1995, which is the same year the Denver airport was finished.
Typical.
This bunker underneath the Greenbrier Hotel, it had like a Congress room and everything. So it's like literally where like all the U.S. elites would go in case of
You've probably never seen your neighbors bringing their groceries inside, have you? Just think about it. Have you ever actually seen them carry groceries from their car and into their house? Or if you live in a building, anyone on your floor bringing groceries into their unit? It's a relatable phenomenon said to be proof you're living in a simulation. It's so weird. Like, it's something we all do all the time. Everyone buys groceries. And yet somehow we never catch our own neighbors doing the same. The theory goes that for actual subjects, i.e. main characters of the simulation, mundane tasks outside of yourself, like someone carrying their groceries inside, are filtered out to preserve processing power, only showing you things that actually matter. Kinda how video games only render the viewing space you're currently looking at, and everything else doesn't exist until you look at it. And if you're saying, no, that's not true, I just saw my neighbors bring them in last week, well, I got news for you, pal. You're an NPC. You see the mundane tasks as a simulation, ain't got nothing better to show you. One thing we do all have in common, we'll always catch mom bringing groceries in, and these bad boys will be waiting for us every time.
There have been many pictures and videos that have came to light recently from Anlong County in China that shows clearly many dozens, if not more, pyramids hidden amongst the hillsides. Now the experts are saying these are no more than parallel layers of stones. They all just happen to look like pyramids. But it's pretty clear it's just one more in a growing list of reasons why we don't trust the experts anymore. And these certainly weren't the first pyramids uncovered in China. Here's a photo in 1945 from U.S. Airman James Gossman, and it was absolutely massive in size, dwarfing the pyramids in Egypt. You can pause to read more of his experience. In fact, there's been dozens, if not hundreds, of photos and reports of hidden pyramids scattered all throughout China. While government officials refuse access to investigate any of these sites, in fact, goes to great lengths to cover them back up, plant trees on top of them, and block off any access from the public. But even on the controlled Google Earth, you can still find many of them to this day. But it's no surprise they want to keep these hidden. These realm-wide pyramids show once again, history is nothing more than a set of lies agreed upon. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Oh, you're gonna like this one. So this whole bridge thing and the collapse, it made me think, wait a minute, wasn't that a scene from the movie that the Obamas produced on Netflix? And yeah, it is. Look, right there. That looks pretty similar, right? So then I'm like, wait a minute. Why are ex-presidents producing movies anyway? So of course I had to ask Alexa. Alexa, how many films has the Obamas produced?
This might answer your question. I know about 119 Barack Obama movies, including Leave the World Behind, Before the Flood, Fahrenheit 11 Nights, and Rustin. Netflix has announced a deal with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, which will see the pair producing films and TV shows for the streaming giant.
I just don't trust Netflix. Barack and Michael, I do. I think they're great. And then I'm asking Alexa just as a joke. Maybe the government has an entire film industry and they're just always been pushing films on us for propaganda purposes only, and education and entertainment and blah, blah, blah. I just asked her as a joke. And then it turns out the frickin' Pentagon has an entire film company funded by the Department of Defense. Can't make it up. Alexa, has the Pentagon created Hollywood films?
From rawonline.org. It is estimated that the Pentagon has assisted in producing over 500 Hollywood films since the creation of the Department of Defense in 1947.
I bet you anything one of them was The Truman Show and The Matrix. Ah!
No!
What the hell?
Holy shit! Yum yum! Oh my god! Oh no! Why are they not lowering it? Lower it! Oh no! He have a harness on. That's. Should we call 911?
Some pyramids have different functions. So the Great Pyramid at Giza, for sure, a wireless power plant, amongst other things. It was a multifunctional stone computer and a wireless power plant. It was also a communications device. So if you look at old images or old pictures of the Great Pyramid area at Giza, you'll see that the Nile used to run right up alongside of those pyramids. Now it's meandered miles and miles away. One of the main reasons why they don't want you to know is there was an ancient war that happened. That war, that second war I told you about, that's why there's glass in the sands at the Giza Plateau. When you dig your hand in the sand, you pull up balls of glass. That's 3,000 degrees to create glass out of sand. That's weapons fire. And there's still evidence of weapons fire on the Bent Pyramid right out there at Giza as well, which I've documented many times. It's coming out in my new TV show. But nonetheless, the water would run underneath in these gigantic aquifers. The tubes for those aquifers are still there. But when you have running water underneath magnetized crystal granite, which is what the base is made out of, you create something called physiostatic electricity.
Did you watch the Kevin Hart interview?
But I've had people throw millions of dollars in my face to do something I didn't want to do. And what? Just, you've been off, yeah. Oh, they're in the room. Yeah.
They're listening. Like, okay, who's listening? Whoever that is, they have a lot of control and they have a lot of power. And at the end of the day, whether you look at the history of Disney, whether you look at the history of Hollywood, a lot of these organizations are just psyops to control society.
Just got back from Brazil, and I can tell you right now, Brazil is going to explode in discovery related to pyramids. There are pyramids all over Brazil, and I have photographs of some of them. There's a pyramid.
Yeah, look at those two sides right there.
It's nuts. It even looks like it's got concourses in the dirt. None of these have been discovered, and they look way more realistic than any of the things that you've seen coming out of either Antarctica or out of Bosnia. And I found a megalithic site that's like Stonehenge for Orion. If you look, okay, see where the Orion Nebula one is, right? And all these little stars around here. So again, Orion shows up all the way around the Earth.
Man, I've got to show you something. I mean, this is massive.
Those are huge blocks.
Look at the vertical cut marks on the top block. I mean, those were placed. That pieced with what you're sharing, there's something going on in Brazil.
This guy, whistleblower, he was a firefighter on one of the lab bases in Antarctica. Basically, he said that's a very elite position because you have keys to every single facility. And he reported on it. He's like, I don't even know how to explain it to you. But he talked about this technology that they have in Antarctica. It's this communication device that it like defies physics. So like when we talk on phone or whatever, when we're communicating, it travels in radio waves, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so it has that path. It communicates by a straight line. So it's like you can talk to someone 1 light year away.
If it's through time and telekinesis, then you could go back in time and talk to yourself just telepathically with saying no words. So your gut feelings could actually be your own advice to yourself.
Well, listen, you're onto something a little bit.
Oh, man.
Because he said this technology, he's like, it's not meant for one thing. It's
Yeah.
it's the most powerful telescope in the whole world.
Wow.
He said the earthquake that happened in Churchill, New Zealand was caused by this thing in
Oh,
Antarctica.
boy.
And the guy's like, he's like, how do you know? He's like, because I was in the room.
This is the winner of Eurovision 2024, Nemo. Representing Switzerland, this person is also wearing a crown of thorns that was given by one of the runner-ups named Bambi Thug that represents Ireland. Now, before I show you why you don't play with God and the crown of thorns, I don't know if you know what she did for her performance. I made a whole video on it, so you can just check that out, but it was a full-on satanic ritual along with demonic possession. I mean, she literally admitted it herself. Watch this real quick.
Do you know what makes me special? I'm a queer. And I'm a
Alright, sorry you had to see that, but Nemo goes up on stage and he grabs his award for getting first place in the whole contest. Once he claims it, he goes out and celebrates in front of the stage, and just look what happens. Once he places his trophy on the ground, it shatters.
I didn't just break the code, I also broke the trophy.
and I broke my thumb as well.
There's a lot that we don't know, bro, about frequencies, bro. Like, I've heard this experiment. They invited Tesla to use his wave frequency modulation device to create an electromagnetic frequency around a ship and make it disappear. Oh, shit. And they succeeded. Oh. And they tested it out in water and it completely disappeared. And Tesla was thrilled. He loved this idea until they mentioned that they wanted to do it to a human. Oh. And they told him to do it to a human. And he said no. And he said, if you're not going to do it, we're going to get somebody else to do it. So they did it. And they tried this experiment on a human. They put him on a ship. And they activated the device. And he said a cloud of green smoke enveloped him. And he disappeared. It worked. But when he reappeared, he was inside the ship. No, that'd be crazy, though.
Oh, no, I heard something like that with the motherfucker.
That'd be crazy. Yeah. But when he reappeared, bro, he was 600 kilometers away from where he previously was.
This woman had a portrait of Jesus Christ on her dress at the red carpet, and the security guards clearly did not want this picture to be shown to the public. This is Dominican actress Maciel Tavares, and at one point she pushes the security guard. This is just wild. Watch this.